Hi, welcome to another interesting video of Nandi Tech Bytes. In this video, we are going to containerize a .NET Core application with SSL enabled, which means at the end of the video, we will have a .NET website hosted on a container and can be accessed via HTTPS. Okay, let's look at the key takeaways now from this tutorial. First, we will learn about containerization, then importance of SSL and TLS. Third, we will deep dive into the technicalities of our Docker file. Fourth, we will learn to build the image, which includes SSL. And finally, we will run and test the application. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, then please subscribe it now. Okay, let's get started. Our motive is to containerize the Hello World.NET app. So before that, let's understand what is a container. A container is like a special box that holds everything an application needs to run. Imagine you are packing a suitcase for a trip. You include your clothes, toiletries, and other essentials. Similarly, a container packages all the parts of an application, like its code, libraries, and settings, into one neat bundle. This means the application can run the same way anywhere, whether it's on your laptop, a server, or in the cloud. In short, containers are flexible. Containers are lightweight, meaning they use system resources efficiently. They also keep applications isolated from each other, reducing conflicts and making management easier. In short, containers make it simple to develop, deploy, and run applications consistently across different environments. Now let's discuss about SSL, which stands for Secure Socket Layer, or TLS, Transport Layer Security. These both are essential for keeping your data safe on the internet. Imagine you are sending a letter with sensitive information. Without SSL or TLS, it's like sending that letter without an envelope. Anyone can read it along the way. With SSL or TLS, it's like sealing the letter in a secure envelope that only the intended recipient can open. Here's why SSL or TLS is important. Data security. It encrypts the data sent between your computer and a website, making it unreadable to anyone who tries to intercept it. Then, trust and authentication. It verifies that the website you are connecting to is legitimate, ensuring you are not giving your information to a fake site. Then, compliance. It helps business meet legal requirements for data protection, like those in the GDPR or HIPAA. In simple terms, SSL or TLS keeps your online interactions private and secure, just like locking up your valuables in a safe. Okay, moving to our next topic, which is Docker and Dockerfile. Docker is the open source software which allows us to do containerization, or in simple terms, package an application and all its parts. Now, if you're wondering how Docker will containerize your application, so basically Docker works as per the instructions provided in the Docker file. It's a file which is a set of instructions, and when the file is executed successfully, it creates a Docker image. Docker image is the package where your application is packed. And when you run that image, you will get a container running, and inside that container, your application is hosted. So long story short, we have a Docker file. We will build the image using that Docker file, and then we'll run the image to make our application up and run. Now let's get familiar with the sample .NET application that we are using for this tutorial. So .NET is a popular framework developed by Microsoft that helps developers to build a wide range of applications. This is our project directory structure. Sample app is the name of our application directory. Inside this folder, you will find the main project file, sampleapp.csproj, which is like the blueprint of our application. This file lists all the dependencies and settings required to build and run the app. By keeping everything organized in this project directory, we ensure that our application can be easily managed, built, and deployed without missing any crucial parts. If you notice, a Docker file is also present in the screenshot. This Docker file is placed outside our application folder. We are going to use this Docker file to containerize our application. Now let's deep dive into the most interesting part, which is the Docker file of our application. We are using multi-stage Docker file, and it has 5 stages in total, starting from generating a development certificate to the final runtime image. We will look into each of these stages in detail. But before that, Let me tell you that when creating containers with Docker, there are two main ways to build them. One is single stage and the other method is multi-stage builds. A Docker file that includes all the steps needed to build and run your application in one go is called a single stage Docker build. And in single stage Docker build, we will use a single base image and all the application dependencies and its parts are installed in that image. But for multi-stage build, the instructions are written in a single Docker file only. But there are multiple or at least more than one base image used. We will see that in our example. If you are thinking why use multi-stage build, then the answer is multi-stage builds makes our images smaller in size, keeping only the compiled code and the essential files and stubs. For example, imagine you have two bags, one is 10 kilos and other is 100 kilos. If you lift one of them, you will get the same reward. Then which one you will pick? A smart guy will always pick the 10 kilos one, right? Okay, let's get back to our main track. This is stage 1 of our Docker file. In this stage, we create a special certificate that helps secure our application. Let's break it down. The from statement here, this command tells Docker to use a pre-built box or base image that has all the tools we need for .NET development. The AS dev-search part simply gives this stage a meaningful name. Now the next command, work dir. Here we set a working directory, which is like choosing a specific room to do our project. We are saying that let's do all our work in this particular folder called ASP.NET/HTTPS. Then the third instruction is arg cert_password. This command introduces an argument called cert_password. Think of it as a placeholder for the password we will use later. It's like setting up blank space where we will fill in the password. Finally, we run a command to create our development certificate. This is the key part. .NET dev-certs HTTPS is a command that tells .NET to generate a certificate for secure communication. -ep ASP.NET app.pfx specifies the file name where the certificate will be saved. In our case, it's ASP.NET app.pfx. -p, then space $cert_password applies the password we set earlier to protect the certificate. In the second stage of our Docker file, we set up the base environment where our application will run. Let's break down each command. First, we select a base environment that has everything needed to run a .NET application. This ensures that our application will have the right tools and settings to function correctly. Next, using workdir, we are setting up a specific folder inside the environment where all our application files will go. Finally, using expose, we make sure that our application can accept both regular and secure web traffic. This means opening the necessary doors to let data flow in and out safely. Third stage. Now in the third stage of our Docker file, we focus on building the actual application. This is like gathering all the materials and tools needed to construct something and then putting it all together to create the final product. Here, as usual, again we are using a base image which has all the required tools suitable for our application to be built. Next, we bring in the project's blueprint, the sample app.proj file by using copy. This command basically copies the files to our Docker image. Then we run .NET restore command to gather all the dependencies required for our application and mentioned in the project file. Next, we copy the source code using the copy command. Here the two dots you can see, the first dot is basically to copy all the files and folders where the Docker file is running. In our case, it will copy the sample app folder, and second dot is the destination path where the files will be copied to. Next, we use sample app as the working directory and run the .NET build command. The .NET build command will be run with the project file to build the application and place the artifact of the build to app/build path. In the fourth stage of our Docker file, we prepare our application for deployment. First, we continue from where we left off in the previous stage, where we build our application. The base image here is the product of our build stage. Next, we run .NET Publish to prepare the application for deployment by compiling the code and packaging the binaries along with dependencies and configuring it for deployment to a specific target environment. In the fifth and final stage of our Docker file, we set up everything needed to run it smoothly and configuring the SSL certificate that we created on the first stage. Let's break it down. From base as final, we start with the base image we configured in stage 2. This image already includes the environment and settings necessary for our application to run. Next, with workdir/app, we set the working directory inside the Docker container where our application will reside. Then we copy the compiled and packaged application from the publish stage into our final stage. This ensures that the complete and ready to run version of our application is included. Then we will also copy the development SSL certificate generated earlier in stage 1 into the Docker image. To configure the SSL, we add some environment variables like ASP.NET, Kestrel certificate path, password, etc. And finally, we define the command that starts our application when the Docker container is launched. This entry point command tells Docker to run our .NET application using the sample app DLL file. Now that we have explored each stage of our Docker file, let's see how it all comes together to create a fully functioning containerized application. This is our complete Docker file. To summarize the Docker file, I am recapping all the 5 stages again in brief. In the first stage, we generate a development certificate to secure our application's communications. Think of it as creating a digital lock and key for our application. Next, in the second stage, we set up the base environment where our application will run. This includes choosing a specific space and opening the doors to both regular and secure web traffic. Next, in the third stage, which is our build stage, we compile our .NET application's code and gather all the necessary components to create a working application. It's like assembling all the parts needed to build. In stage 4, we then publish our application, preparing it for deployment. This involves packaging everything neatly and ensuring it's ready to be shared and used by others. Finally, in the last stage, we bring everything together into the final Docker image. We include our compiled application, the development certificate for security, and configure the environment settings to ensure our application runs smoothly. Okay, by now you must have a complete idea about our Docker file. Let's get into action and run the Docker file. So here I am running the docker build command in the location where my Docker file is present. I am using --build -arg to pass the value of cert_password and then giving a name for our image, followed by a dot. I am using dot as our Docker file is on my current path. Our image started building. Please see the description of the video. I have mentioned a GitHub URL. All the source code will be available on it. And it's done. Let's check the image by running Docker images. Okay, we can see our sample.NET app image. Now time for testing the image. For that, I am going to use docker run command. Along with that, I have to pass the value for cert password and publishing the image on 443. I will go through the commands used for building and running the container shortly. Let's test it out on our browser now. The application can be accessed by using https://localhost:443. So basically, to build and run our image, we use 2 commands. The first one is the build command and the second one is the docker run. The docker build command is used to build a Docker image. Then we use --build-arg to pass the value of an argument, cert_password, which equals to Nandhi bytes. And with -t, we are giving the name of our containerized image. The dot at the end is telling our Docker agent that the Docker file is in the current path. Now moving to docker run command, it is used to run a Docker image. With docker run, we have passed -e to pass the value for cert password as environment variable. which will be required by our container during the runtime, as this is an argument in the Docker file. Next, we added -p to publish our application on port 443. The left-hand side 443 is to map our localhost port, and the right-hand side 443 after the colon is to map container port. Then at the end, we pass the name of the Docker image that we want to run. With this, I am concluding this video. Please subscribe to my channel and see you in next video. Thank you.